Welcome everyone. Welcome back to my channel. And today we're gonna have a nice talk about Copilot and some related aspects. And today I have a very special guest, and maybe you can introduce yourself.
Great to meet you all. My name is Szymon. I'm the Microsoft MVP in the area of Copilot and Microsoft 365. I live in Poland, and frankly speaking, since last 15 years, I spent some time to working as a consultant, administrator, and right now mostly pre-sales person in the area of Microsoft 365. So what I'm doing on the daily basis, I'm helping the customers to figure out how the technology could fit into the challenges or needs that are present on the customer side.
Okay. Now, I have written down some good questions for you, so hopefully you can help us out a little bit. For those people that are unfamiliar with Copilot, can you briefly explain how Copilot works and why it's such a game changer for organizations?
Sure. I think there is a little challenge behind this name because we're naming everything Copilot right now, and this is also the user perspective when we're talking about generative AI. Everything is Copilot or ChatGPT. But in the area of the Microsoft 365, we're talking mostly about Microsoft 365 Copilot. So let's say generative AI technology that could be implemented as a part of the Microsoft 365 applications to improve the productivity. And the easiest example to how it could help on the daily work could be assistant that will sum up the Microsoft Teams meetings in behalf of you. So when you will turn on the transcript of your meeting, you can use Copilot to help you to sum up the summary, activities, recap of the most important elements. And this is the way how Copilots, let's say, today support the productivity end users with working with this technology. Probably in the future, it will evolve also in the area of the autonomous or semi-autonomous agents that using AI to help you, but we are at this moment the very early stage of that.
Yeah, we are at the early stage of AI technology. So yeah,
True.
I'm very curious at what the future is going to bring.
That's true. That's true to be fair.
Hey, adoption is also a very hot topic when using new technology, and when adopting AI tools can be very exciting, but also challenging. What are some common hurdles organizations can face when bringing in tools like Microsoft 365 Copilot?
Yeah, I totally agree, especially that Copilot is not something that we know for years. This is something that all of us learning how to use, how to adopt, and what are the real benefits behind it. And it is the sentence that will apply to customers, to partners, but also to Microsoft. We're seeing how the technology evolving based on the user feedback. And from my perspective, when I working with the customers that are interested in Copilot, and when we're thinking about adoption, one element is very crucial is to figure out the good business cases for the technology because almost every time we're starting from some kind of and hype maybe is not the best word in here but excitement about possibility to improve the productivity using AI technology. And this is very high level approach. And finally, when you want to adopt Copilot successfully, which is not free, and this is quite expensive tool, which you need to calculate that, it's very important to figure out the business cases that will generate some kind of ROI and then do the best to adopt the technology for this specific business processes. Why is that? Because one thing is if the people will use the technology, but also the second is to show the value for the organization. If we're talking about free version of the Copilot, it's super simple. Yeah? You have the technology that could help you to uh, being the knowledge across the world using AI technology. You don't have to pay for it again because this is already included in your license. But if we're thinking about Microsoft 365 Copilot, then there is a budget needed to implement the technology around here. One tip that I will highly recommend for every organization that will think about deploying Copilot is to think about this process on the very early stage. before adoption, before even buying the licenses, to build strong business case, and then focus during adoption to fit in that business cases into the technology. And the second thing, it's very good to sync with your partners, sync with Microsoft, because Microsoft putting a lot of effort to support that process. There's a lot of programs that Microsoft provides to support the customers at the very early stage before the licenses are in place, and also after the customers will buy the first Copilot licenses for the organization to make this process more effective.
Yeah, true. I also often define personas when I'm visiting organizations. Why? Every organization has different type of workers, and not every worker will use Copilot.
That's true. That's true. Frankly, I do not see at all scenarios that company, let's say, buying the license for everyone. There is no value in such approach. I totally agree with what you said, that it's good to find the scenarios for the specific personas and focus on them, because there is a way to deliver real value for such people. If we will talk about everyone, then it could be, sometimes it could be successful, but in many cases it will not work at all.
No, and most of the organizations I visit, yeah, organizations still are trying Copilot or do a proof of concept. I don't know how it's on your side.
Frankly, many scenarios I facing are where a customer is interested, but it's scary about the oversharing of the data, is scary about the impact in the organization, and does not have very strong technical knowledge how all of that is working. And this is also, let's say, opportunity for all partners on the market to support such a customers, because they need inside knowledge for because we all learning this technology, we are gathering the experience, but customers looking for somebody to help them right now to build a strategy, how to start the work with Copilot, how to start the how to prepare data, Microsoft 365 in the area of the oversharing, of the some kind of standards, governance. We don't need Copilot to do that, but this is very good, let's say, excuse to start to thinking about it. And this is a big challenge for the many customers. But I agree, lack of this, let's say, deep knowledge about the technology also does not help customers to figure out the business cases for them, because there is some kind of thinking that Copilot will do everything. Yeah. So let's put the prompt, sum up all the information across Microsoft 365, detailed reports. We are not yet there. Yeah. Maybe someday there will be features like that. Yeah. But today there is specific, let's say, list of functionalities that we can use. Maybe it will evolve for something, and hopefully this will evolve for more advanced functionalities. But many times it cannot do everything that we will figure out. Yeah. Uh, but again, I believe this will be the process. Yeah, all of us will learn more. Customers will also learn more about Copilot and how it could benefit the organization, and then it will be much easier to adopt and deploy such a tool there.
Yeah. Hey, how can businesses encourage employees to adopt Microsoft 365 Copilot, but also keep security in mind?
This is a very good point. Yeah, because oversharing, based my observation and, let's say, the scenarios that assessments we provide to the customers is present everywhere. There's no exception from that. Every organization contains some kind of overshared data. People make mistakes. Sharing the data too widely, it will not change. But the important element is to understand how to mitigate that kind of risk. Yeah. So I met the customers that make a strategy. Let's exclude all SharePoint sites from the Copilot scope. Let's start the assessment side by side. And then when we will clear up oversharing, then we will add specific SharePoint sites to the scope of Copilot. Thanks to that, we will, let's say, mitigate the risk of the overshared data, and we will not stop the, let's say, innovative approach in the organization. On the other hand, there are some kind of tools on the market that could help to analyze the environments in the context of oversharing. It's worth to consider that. Unfortunately, in the Microsoft 365, there's no, let's say, by design reports that could help to do deep dive analysis about oversharing, but it's worth to use possible solutions. Also, Microsoft could help in this area, I believe, especially in some programs to after customers deploying Copilot to also help in investigation of the way how the data is structured. But again, in most cases, this will be very small percentage of the data. Yeah. So, and the element I'm hearing on every meeting, we will not be able to find, let's say, salary of our CEO, but there could be something. Yeah? CVs, reports, offers, contracts. Maybe something could be overshared. It's worth to think about it. It's worth to prepare yourself, prepare some kind of standards in the organization, and then as a next step plan the Copilot. I'm a big fan of approach which will be rather step by step that big boom. So and I totally agree that, let's say, security aspect of the data and Copilot is very connected today.
Yeah, but you know
It's
what is strange? When we leave the word Copilot, you have that basic hygiene. You have it. It has to be already in place with or without Copilot.
That's true. I totally agree with that statement that we don't
Yeah,
need Copilot to start to think about it. There is still a full text search which indexes all of that data based on the permissions assigned there. But again, many times we need some kind of additional push to do that. Maybe Copilot could be that.
yeah. I hope so. It would help to address some aspects that every customer faces.
True,
And
true.
most of the time they just implement technology and don't think good about the consequences. I always tell them, build your house on a strong fundament. Yeah, first fix your productivity layer, and build your compliance layer on that, then your security layer on that, and then you have some kind of strong fundament.
Yeah, totally agree. Unfortunately, not every organization working this way, but this is the path that they should follow. And moreover, we're talking about Copilot, but there are many other generative AI tools which are less secure, and this is also something that should be taken into consideration. And companies with Microsoft 365 suite also have tools to support, let's say, their users to build the allowed tools and block tools that users shouldn't put any company data there. And Microsoft could support also that part. So
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. And I always like questions about Purview, but what role does Microsoft Purview play in ensuring the data is protected using Microsoft 365 Copilot?
Yeah, sensitive data is something that will always pop up. Yeah,
Yep.
and there are many features across Microsoft 365 and some even very basic guidelines that customers should configure before Copilot could be rolled out. And not every customer will have the Purview or advanced security features, but even MFA could help here. Yeah, that could be some kind of basic stuff that should be implemented. Labeling and most likely automated labeling of the data. This is something that I would highly recommend to every big organization that stores a lot of data there, because without such a case, taking control about possible leak of the data outside of Copilot is very difficult. So that will be my recommendations. And again, I agree. Not every company owns Microsoft 365 E3, E5 subscriptions, but even, let's say, lower subscriptions offers a lot of security features. And again, if you're thinking about Copilot, it's worth to dig in what is available and implement as much as possible.
Or hire a consultant like us to give some advice.
Yeah, true, true.
Hey, can you share some best practices for businesses to safeguard their information while leveraging the power of Copilot?
Hmm.
Hmm,
Uh,
that's a good one.
first, That's good one. I think the element you mentioned is very important. So having the governance and some kind of standards, because this is something many times missing. And on many levels, because we're not only talking about security of the data, but also quality of the data. Uh, if we're storing in the cloud a huge amount of the files that are outdated, not changed in years, this will not improve the quality of the results we will get from Copilot. Thankfully, Microsoft starting to implement new features like Microsoft 365 Archive to somehow move that data to cold storage. I would highly recommend to consider that. But again, to do that, first we need to sit down and figure out what should be the business rules to do that. What kind of data should be archived? What kind of data should be classified as extremely secure for our organizations, internal or external allow? There's a lot of process that should happening. And again, process is very complex, but what I would recommend is to start doing that. Maybe in agile approach based on the first rules, first policies that will be implemented, and then extend that in time. Because again, big boom could be very long, very changing project, but still without starting with something simple, it will never happen. And again, use Copilot as an excuse or use generative AI as an excuse to, let's say, start to work on that.
Yeah, and hopefully IT will have a good conversation with the businesses and also the business with IT to address all those processes and to think about their data. Which data do we have to keep in place, and which data we can move to cold storage or to another solution.
I think this is something super important what you mentioned, because I think many of us was, let's say, growing from IT pro perspective, and having the opportunity to work closer with business in such a cases will be much more important than just deploying the policies, because without people following the rules, nothing will change. Yeah, or if we will force some very strict policies without, let's say, proper adoption, proper communication. Uh, I know yellow cards with passwords will appear on the screen or something like that. Yeah, nobody wants that, and I think this is super important, which you mentioned that without this close collaboration between IT, security, and the business side, it will be very difficult to tell that such a project could be effective in the long term.
Yeah, I often tell organizations if they ask me, "Hey, Rene, can you implement Microsoft Purview services at our site?" I always ask, "Can I talk with the business also?" And if they tell me, "No, Rene, you only can talk with IT," I tell them, "I'm sorry, I'm not going to help you."
Yeah, because you can implement anything you want in the admin panel of Microsoft 365, but without business engaged there, will that approach work? I don't think so. So I'm totally with you here.
Yeah, great. Hey, lastly, what steps can businesses take to ensure a smooth process adoption from Copilot, both in terms of security and user readiness?
Uh, First of all, I would recommend Heidi to do the plan for that. So, and do not rush. Again, I met many customers that, bought 4 or 5 licenses to test how it works, and it could help. But if many times, if this will be not done proper way, without time booked for that, without adoption, without follow-ups, um, after 2 weeks of super hype engagements, daily work taking all of our free time, and we getting back to the some kind of previous approach how we work. And working with AI is challenging, because we need to change our mindset how we work. This is not something that we will see and it will automatically change our behavior. It will requires the time. And I totally agree with the approach that Microsoft sharing on the adoption portal for the Copilot, that let's say 3-6 months probably will be needed for people that will be early adopters of Copilot to change the daily work, the thinking about how they can operate, and what does it mean for the deployment of Copilot. Even when there's some preparation will be done, even if there will be big rollout training for the Copilot, it cannot end after 2 weeks. It could be, it have to be, let's say, probably 3 months project at least, that from time to time there will be activities, there will be additional elements planned by business, by IT that will support Copilot users in evolving the way how they're working. And it could be trainings, it could be materials shared with them, it could be some kind of inspiration sessions. But if we will leave them with the new tool that they need to put some effort to use, to change, to adapt these new tools for daily work that they're doing, without any support, probably it will not work the best way. So I highly recommend to think about at least 3 months after the deployment of Copilot for some activities. Probably the longer it will take, the less activities we need to provide. But without this adoption plan, it's very difficult to think about some kind of success there.
I agree. And often organizations think adoption is a one-time process, but it's a continuous process. And we're working with cloud technology, and it evolves every day, every week, every month. A lot of things change.
That's true.
So you have to be on top of that.
Especially when you're thinking about Copilot that change constantly. I don't know, if we're thinking about how Copilot in PowerPoint worked 3 months ago, how it's working today, how in next few weeks Copilot in Excel start to work. It's a lot. It's a lot for one person to analyze that. And if we will left the users there, it would be super difficult for them to catch up with all of that, what's happening there.
Yeah, but people struggle with all the stuff that Microsoft throws at us. And if you look at from a bigger approach, from a multi-cloud approach, they don't know where to start. Help us.
True. And that's why this process could be a little difficult, because we're thinking about that. Copilot will be a super effective solution that we will very easily deploy. It will change the life of all of us very quickly. Probably it will, but it will need time to happen. And also it will need some kind of work on our side, work on the organization side to, let's say, adopt this solution for people. So maybe I do not want to, let's say, sound pessimistic, but it is not zero effort approach. Yeah. So it will requires planning. It will requires some kind of activities on the customer side to be successful. Very good example is deployments of Microsoft Teams in 2020, where customers does not have plans for the trainings, for the proper governance, but we had to work from home. So let's deploy Teams very quickly. It worked in the short term, but in the long term, we end up with super messy environments. And this is very similar. Yeah, it will require some kind of planning and effort to make it effective.
Yeah, and focus.
True.
Hey, as a wrap up, do you have a good tip for all the viewers? Your tip of the day?
I would I would recommend everyone who is interested in Copilot and already own the Microsoft 365 Copilot license to test Copilot in OneDrive. This is something that was not present in the Copilot Wave 2 announcements. It was announced a few months ago and appeared right now on the Microsoft 365. It's a great tool with super potential. But let's say from marketing perspective, this did not get too much attention from the end users. And I highly recommend to test elements like comparison of the files, quick summaries, working on the files, because this is documented oriented Copilot that supports in the OneDrive, SharePoint, and Teams, but from OneDrive perspective. This could be a little tricky. So if you never tried, if you did not check how Copilot in OneDrive working, I highly recommend you to do that.
That's a good tip. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for this interview.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure to talk to you, Rene. So I hope maybe in future we will repeat that.
Of course, of course. So